Well, hello everyone. It is Sunday. It is Kristi, and that means it is Weekend Winters. How are y'all doing? I hope you're doing well and having a good morning. Hi, Lisa in the chat. I see that you're spending time with us because you have insomnia, and so hopefully I can lull you to sleep with my boring story. So, yeah, today we're gonna. Just officially, I am on vacation. And therefore, I'm probably not going to go for an hour. I'm probably going to go for a half hour and not even feel bad about it. But what I definitely want to do in this hour is cover some more of the stuff about Peter Boghossian resigning from Portland State University. If you haven't seen it, Kevin and I did discuss this on our recent happy hour on the Twitch stream. After this show, I'm going to be editing together clips from that show and posting them on the channel. So yeah, just FYI, I'm going to try to do highlight clips from the happy hour here on my channel, since Kevin doesn't seem to be too interested in YouTube and we want to have a YouTube presence again. So I guess my channel will be the official home of the happy hour. All right, so let's get right into this, because this was an interesting piece of news this week. As you guys can see, well, not quite yet because I don't have it up on the screen. But yeah, so Peter Boghossian has, I guess we'll just use the Daily Mail even though they're trash. Freaking trash. But they've got Peter Boghossian decided to do a bit of self-cancellation. Actually, I don't need my headphones on at the moment, now that I've got the audio off. Yeah, and what is particularly interesting is that in typical, mediocre white man overestimating how important he is, the thing that really sums it up. This is this tweet is she took the cheese grater of the Glinner saga, right? It just provides an insight, a detail into the motivations behind Peter Boghossian's self-cancellation. And yes, so he actually wrote, oh no, where is it? Here, this one. Oh yeah. He wrote on the 8th of September when he did this BS resignation letter that was really a PR exercise. I've been deluged with requests to appear on conservative media regarding my resignation from PSU. Why? Yeah, I wonder why. Why would a bunch of conservative media, which is dominated by geriatric, rich white men on the far right, who are constantly looking for ways to both demonize people who are legitimately oppressed by systems in the United States that are historically bigoted, and also claiming that they themselves are the biggest victims, condemning victim culture while also claiming they are the victims. And of course, Peter is so thirsty for national attention, so thirsty for getting his name out there. He's probably got a book or some crap coming out, so he wants to get going on the, publicity tour right away. Yeah, he tagged in Rachel Maddow, NPR, and MSNBC as if this academic nobody, as if this ethical violating hack is worth Rachel Maddow's time. She's got actual stories to do. Nobody cares about you, old white man. Just retire. Go away. That's it. If you hadn't made your contribution in your field already, by the time you've now retired and resigned, whatever, then ain't nobody gonna talk to you. Ain't nobody need to talk to you. What do you gotta say? Other than I violated basic ethical procedures at my university and still wasn't held accountable because I was protected by my white privilege. But let's get into it. Right, so hi to everyone in the chat. As you can see, I kicked it right over to our interactive sign, so I'm gonna say hi to some people, and then we're gonna get going. So Neo Ripshaft off first thing in the first person in the chat. High five, nice. Yeah, go. Give me a high five. Put that up there with you. DN fan, always here, loyal, always on here on a Sunday. I appreciate your regularity and you showing up every week. Lisa, checking us out in Seattle. Hope you can fall asleep after this. Who else we got in the chit chat? We got Fox of Fate. Thank you for stopping by. Matilda with a very long name, and you put some stuff in Spanish that I can't speak because I do French, English, and German, and I'm stopping at 3. Right. So thanks for everyone who's made a comment in the chat, and for everyone who hasn't made a comment but has still stopped by to have a little morning with me. Alrighty. Let's so yes, this happened September 8th. Was that a Friday? Did he do a Friday media dump? No, he did it on a Wednesday. Still ain't nobody, except the right wing, like racist media noticing. All right. So I'm going to be honest with you. So Kevin and I looked at this already. I asked him to go through this letter, and we have. So if you watched it on the Twitch stream, you'll know a little bit about this. If this is the sort of thing that Boghossian, how many papers did he actually publish? And how many Peter Boghossian? I know, like, other than the fake ones, right? What does he actually have for, like, an academic scholar? Okay, let's see what he's got here. He did something on constructivism back in 2006. That's kind of interesting. Wow. Okay, this is not organized by year, so let's organize this by year. Oh yeah, it looks like he's putting some stuff out, although a skeptic, I don't know what this is. Is that radical pedagogy? Right. I'd be interested in kind of going through his stuff. Like, there's his hack, there's like all of this stuff now is just crap. So what do you got here before show more? Show me more. Let's see. Oh God, where is it? Want to be good at this? I can't believe. Holy cow, you guys. Cited by one. This. Did you actually take this thing that I trashed? Did you actually take this thing that I trashed on that? No, I don't know what this is. Is that another citation? I don't know why that is. I think this is what he's talking about. If you want to be a good philosopher, don't rely on intuition or comfort. The Philosopher's Magazine is not a peer review. Peter, why? Okay, so a little bit of background. If you look on my history, I did a review where I went to Philosopher's Magazine, which is just basically like a student-led paper. It is not a proper peer review from my recollection. And we looked at this garbage piece of writing, which lacks a clear structure, lacks a clear argument, doesn't organize things in terms of like linking concepts with examples really well. All right, so I can't. All right, I published things to secular women back a couple years ago. I don't put it in my resume. What are you doing, Peter? Peter, what are you doing? What are you doing? All right, so okay, it's an online journal. It's literally a philosopher's mag. How can you list this as one of your cited journals? And when you go to this website, we publish philosophy that's clear, thought-provoking, and relevant. Our contributors are mainly professional philosophers who care about good writing. Each issue features a mix of essays, interviews, opinions. There is no academic publisher here. There is no discussion of blind peer review. Peter, why? Why do you have this listed as one of your publications? You're a joke. You're a joke. And this explains, like, you're just like, talk about mediocre white man getting by on his privilege. This is a guy who claims to have, had enough expertise to teach ethics, and yet can't reflect enough on his own discipline to consider he might need informed consent and university approval before engaging in experimentation on human subjects. Like, maybe he doesn't think of applied ethics as ethics or applied ethics as important, but actually I don't really see the point of ethics if we're not talking about its application. It's not divorced from reality. This guy is so crap. All right, what are y'all saying? High five to Neo Ripshep. Yeah, I got you. Strap at 3 languages. Why only 3? Because my brain is old, and 3 is as many as I can handle. I only know about Boghossian because of the street epistemology, which is legitimately interesting, but clearly puts to rest the idea that education or reasoning ability can protect you from bad ideas. Oh yeah, and we're also learning that in the COVID pandemic when we got all these healthcare workers who refuse to get a vaccination. When you've got like QAnon nurses and I think it's like, well, it's maybe some doctors too, but mostly nursing staff. My goodness. All right, so now y'all speaking Spanish to me, so I don't know what's going on. That's all right. You speak your special language. That's okay. I don't feel threatened by other people's being ability to speak other languages. All right. So maybe I'll look. Physicists are philosophers too. Scientific American. Honestly, like, what articles? And this, how old is this? Like 1980s picture of this guy, dude. Update your profile pic. All right, so Peter is all like, I'm quitting. Everybody notice I'm quitting. I'm really quitting. I'm really going. I'm heading out now. And nobody really cared. Sorry, old white guy. Like, nobody really cares. Obviously, you get a little attention in your circles. And everyone is going to, despite your self-cancellation in the situation, be like, oh, poor Peter. Oh, the poor white man standing up for unjustified hierarchies and systemic racism and bigotry. Won't somebody please think of the retiring privileged white guys? Anyway, so that happened. And I just want to point out again what a failure of an academic this guy is. Right. So he writes this crap letter. Which is basically his victimization. Basically, here's how he was made a victim. He went out and attacked disciplines he didn't fully understand or appreciate globally. And then when there was blowback, he was like, oh, but I'm entitled to try to oppress your speech. I'm entitled to try to destroy your departments, and you can't say anything bad about me. You can't tell students that I might not be a teacher whom they want to take a course from because my ideology is twisting my perspective. For instance, why would you take an ethics course from a man who's been reprimanded by his own university for failure of ethics? For instance, but he doesn't want to talk about that. He doesn't want to talk about his utter failure to actually practice the kind of subject that he claims to be an expert in. And then this letter, which by the way has a series of hyperlinks, and yet no listed bibliography. Dude, you're a joke. Like, you don't even sign your name Dr. Peter Boghossian. Clearly, like, you have no academic standards left in you. You've abandoned that for selling out your soul to right-wing jingoism. Is that the right term? And hyper-partisanship and propaganda. But if you're going to be putting in a series of hyperlinks, like, you also need to put in your references, mate. You have to, like, say the date and when you accessed it, because if some people in the future want to go back to this and the link is broken or the YouTube thing has been taken down, they won't be able to find it. Which was probably good. Like, in all honesty, your incompetence and laziness is probably doing the world a favor in like 20 years' time, because a lot of these links will be dead. And so, and nobody will care. And then he's like, doesn't even put it, he puts it in YouTube channels as links. I don't understand. Like, I understand now why he didn't get tenure. I absolutely understand why you didn't get tenure, because you won't get tenure. The point of academia, like people who go to university think the point of academia is for teachers to teach, like in public schools. It's not. Teaching is something you do to kind of like link up with your research, right? Research-led teaching. Teaching what you're doing, like your methods and how you're producing new knowledge. Academics are hired in order to publish things, in order to create new knowledge, new discussions, new perspectives, to move their discipline forward. Peter can't move any discipline forward by committing hoaxes and frauds. You can't get tenure off a fake article. And I can see why this guy was languishing. He wasn't willing to do the work. He's out here writing, trying to claim peer-reviewed listings for a fucking online, freaking online magazine. Dun, 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 there goes demonetization. For a freaking online magazine run by nobodies with no peer review. And he wants to count that as his publication. I may as well call him the Happy Hour as my publication at that point, I'm just so now that you've kind of got that and you understand that Peter Boghossian is a joke, he's not a good scholar, he can't even self-apply the principles he teaches in the classroom. I just thought it'd be worth, I'm going to shout out, PZ Meyer. A big fan of his work, a friend of the show. We shout out PZ. I've also on Twitter tweeted this out, so if you are interested in reading this or subscribing, this is a PZ Meyer's blog. So we're gonna have a little look at this, and he posted on it, which I appreciate. So I'm just a little shout out. We're going to. He did get tenure last year, and then he resigned. What a numpty! I don't understand how you can get tenure off a hoax. Is it like a Boghossian tenure? Let me just look at that up. Boghossian. How do they give him tenure? Based on what? Quits. This individual has tenure. Who resigned? Hangs it up. This is from January. Never had tenure and never will. So at least according to the news, professor who authored hoax papers said Portland State University launched disciplinary procedures against him. Yep. And they should, because he did violate the ethics. We're going to have a look at that too. All right, so I don't see that he ever got tenure. Oh, your supervisor got tenure. Oh, okay, I got it. Sorry. All right. Righty-dighty. So let's have a look at what PZ had to say. Boghossian quits. PSU students can celebrate. The infamous ignoramus, Peter Boghossian. See, I am so down with PZ. I F with that. That's, yeah, exactly. Just call him what he is. No holds barred. The infamous ignoramus Peter Boghossian has resigned from Portland State University, and of course he does it with a long-winded, tedious whine about how he was oppressed and his free speech was abridged. You can read the whole thing if you want to in an appropriate venue, the Daily Mail. I just wanted to single out one misbegotten complaint. And then he takes an excerpt from the letter. Over the last decade, it has been my privilege to teach at the university, Peter Boghossian wrote. My specialties are critical thinking. That thing about, like I told you, that philosophy, like why philosophy should be the handmaiden of science, is the most exemplary, like non-critical thinking, non-coherent argument structuring article I've reviewed in a long time. The Daily Fail, Gymnasio, exactly right. And I teach classes like science and pseudoscience in the philosophy of education. But in addition to exploring classical philosophers and traditional texts, because, we just stay within the bubble of long dead white men and never move forward. I've invited a range of guests, blah, 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 blah. I never once believed, nor do I now, that the purpose of instruction was to lead my students to a particular conclusion. And yet you did in a hoax. You perpetrated a fraud and violated ethical duties you had as a member of your profession in order to produce an outcome that would lead entire departments to a particular outcome. Liar? Liar, liar, pants on fire? Rather, I sought to create the conditions for rigorous thought. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. You piggybacked off the peer review system in order to find something, work with people's other ideas to make something publishable, and waste their time in order to deceive them. To help them gain the tools to hunt and furrow for their own conclusions. This is why I became a teacher and why I love teaching. Oh, BS, writes PZ. If you want to expose them to the full range of ideas, from the sublime to the ridiculous, just tell them to go browse Facebook. That's not how teaching works. Part of what you must do is act as an informal guide who can show the students the best ideas and help them understand why they are good. What do they learn from bringing in a flat earther? Nothing of value, except that they should follow the example of their teacher and accommodate madness and stupidity. Yes. Go PZ! Go PZ! Go PZ! Go PZ! Go PZ! Boom, boom. All right. Yeah, he's right. Why would you bring in a creationist? Other than to both sides stuff. There are no good creation. If you want to talk about science versus pseudoscience and you want to bring a creationist into your classroom and not humiliate them in terms of like just tearing apart their arguments, then what are you doing? You're teaching people, again, to take things that are ridiculous and don't have a basis for good ideas, in terms of engaging with good ideas and elevating them to a both sidesism. I would never, for instance, give a creationist free rein in one of my classes to explain his bad ideas. I will use that time more productively to explain why those ideas are bad. If a student wants to discuss such ideas with me, I am happy to do so and will treat them respectfully. But I will not and should not give such claims the benefit of my attention without ripping them to shreds. What can I say other than like PZ is entirely right? You have a moral obligation to hold the quality of what you present in your classroom to a standard that you're setting. You know, you're not going to bring it like people who are going to do elections analysis aren't going to bring in fortune tellers and people who are just like going to be guessing and might as well just pull numbers or names out of a hat, right? If a student were to leave my classes without having been led to the knowledge that informs us about the shape of the world, the age of the earth, or the patterns of our changing climate, I would be a bad teacher. Like Boghossian. I thought there was going to be a pause there, but there's not. He's just got 2 words. Oh, PZ, I want to hug you. Like Boghossian. But then maybe he's one of those namby-pamby feels over facts guys who doesn't believe that some ideas are correct and others are not. Now we just have to wait for the other shoe to drop. I don't think he would have quit without some fallback position already lined up. Which conservative think tank will be paying his salary in future, do you think? Facts. Just those are just facts that PZ is like just laying out right now, one after the hour. No, boom, boom, boom. All right. And let's have a little bit of a look, because this doesn't get brought up enough, in my opinion, that he is facing disciplinary. Oh God, yeah, not that anymore. I think Peter Boghossian. Oh, I can't spell today. Peter Boghossian. Reprimanded. Do you get me? Because he doesn't. Yep, reprimanded. Faces. Did he get? I'm trying to find if he has. It was unclear Monday if he had been reprimanded or punished. Ah, okay. This is from 2019. So it looks like now Portland State initiated a breach of action. I don't know if it was ever clear whether or not. It was unclear Monday if Boghossian had been reprimanded or punished. The university declined interview request, and Mr. Boghossian did not reply to requests for comment. Can the University Hour released a statement that appeared to indicate the matter had been resolved. So the fact that Peter Boghossian wasn't out there, I'm going to say, inferring from his silence, he did get a smackdown because he should have. And let me just go through why. A hoax revealing that academic journals, by the way, I'm reading this off of this initial article, but it is completely, for me, at least unlegible and uncomfortable to read in this very faint font, so I have moved it over to a notepad. I'm going to do it from there. So, all right, let's just read it. Fans of the project tend to agree with the hoaxers that critical studies scholars will validate anything aligned with their politics. Critics said that the researchers acted in bad faith, wasting editors' and reviewers' times and very publicly besmirching academia in the process. The story was covered by nearly every major news outlet. Now the controversy has flared up again, with news that one of the project authors faces disciplinary action at his home institution. Peter Boghossian, assistant professor of philosophy at Portland State University, and the only one of the 3 researchers on the project to hold a full-time academic position, was found by an institutional review board to have committed research misconduct. Specifically, he failed to secure its approval before proceeding with research on human subjects. In this case, the journal editors and reviewers he was tricking with his absurd but seemingly well-researched papers. Some 7 of 20 were published. So they had like about a 30% success rate after peer review. Some 7 of the 20 were published in gender studies and other journals. 7 were rejected. Others were pending before the spoof was uncovered. Quote, an IRB protocol application should have been submitted to the Office of Research Integrity, unquote, reads a determination letter from Portland State's IRB dated last month. quote, university policy requires all research involving human subjects conducted by faculty, other employees, and students on campus must have prior review and approval by the IRB. You would think that in ethics, someone who claims to understand ethics would know this. Boghossian had previously been notified that the university had referred misconduct concerns about the canine paper published in Gender, Place, and Culture. By the way, we're just going to look at the impact factor of gender, place, and culture, because people act like or people who aren't in academia might think that getting something in a journal is a bit like getting something in the newspaper, like, sort of like all newspapers, like there's a New York Times or whatever else, but no, newspaper is a newspaper. That's really not the fact. Yeah, look at its impact factor. So this journal has an impact factor, as of 2015, I guess, of 1.8%. Or sorry, 1.18%. 1.18. There's no percent in there. All right, let's look at the impact. What an impact factor like ranges. Impact factor range. Yeah. Like, what is the range of an impact factor? It is difficult to get published in high impact journals because there's so much competition. You have to do really new or original work, and it's very difficult to get. So like 5, like the highest, the top 5% of journals have an impact factor approximately equal to or greater than 6. Most are not. So I think the highest impact factor I've been able to publish in, and there's a lot of journals out there that don't rank, it's like a 3. But then again, I don't live to publish. It's like I publish as part of my work, but publications isn't what drives my career, if that makes sense. So you can see that in terms of top rated journals, you've got a 1 to 10 scale here, right? The top impact factor journals, these top ones are what people subscribe to in journals, in libraries. These are the things that, these are the ones that are going to move the discipline. You can see that, like, in terms of, like, there are 8,000 impact factor journals. They don't have, they can be very niche and very subject specialist, but it's got a peer review process, but they're not hugely impactful because they are read by such a small group. Hey Sib, how you doing? Welcome to the game. Welcome to the show. I want to say hi to Eggberry. I see you're in the chat as well. Fox of Fate, did I call you up before? I think I did. Oh, Sebastian, I don't think I mentioned you before. So, all kinds of good stuff. All right. So impact factors, a lot of people get published in very niche, small journals that have, it might be like the Journal of Nietzsche Studies. Right? So they're like, you have to go to philosophy, and then you have to go to a subset of continental philosophy, and then you've got to go to a subset of continental philosophers and just look at Nietzsche. And one article in one discipline about Nietzsche in a 1 or 2 point factor journal isn't going to be a big deal. But if you're not in the game, maybe you don't know that, and so it just looks really, like, oh my gosh, academia, it's the end of academia. It's done. Like, a lot of things have been published as people are, like, having ideas. The world didn't end. It's Peter Boghossian can't deal with a direct critique of the methods, so instead he went through deceptive means to try to undermine their credibility rather than facing them on directly. And it's why he's not a good academic. Because he's not intellectually honest or rigorous in that way. Boghossian had previously, the article goes on, been notified that the university, I did that one already, but was the SoCal Squared project, as it was dubbed after physicist SoCal's postmodern gobbledygook hoax of 96, really research? It stalled after the Wall Street Journal wrote about it in October. Boghossian and his collaborators, hacks, I like to put that in there, James Lindsay and Helen Pluckrose, did write up their conclusions quicker than planned in Arrow magazine. What is Arrow magazine? I'm going to guess it's not a peer-reviewed journal. It's because, peer-reviewed journals don't have the word magazine in it. So what is this? Oh, God. about. Who are these people? It's a feisty little digital magazine with an international readership. Our contributors, amid the current partisanship, we are committed to the ethos of liberal humanism. Write us, okay, visit our page for submissions. Let's see what their review process is. If you have a full-time job, we encourage you to consider waiving your writer's fee so the money can be reinvested. We want well-argued pieces between 1,000... This guy can't get published in actual proper magazines, can he? He's going to, like, you know, online magazines to publish. This is why he can't get this is why he can't get tenure. You can't actually make it through the peer review process with these new ideas, Peter. Your new ideas aren't good. All right, so let's see. Please note your piece will be copyedited for readability. Okay, so no peer review. No peer review. Let's compare this, right? What they want, blah, 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 1,200 to 3,000 words. Right, now let's just take, oh gosh, let's just take a journal I've been published in, the Journal of Elections, Public Opinion and Parties. That was a while ago, but let's look at their aims and scopes. Let's see if we can get from there over to there. All right. So what is a proper, let's just compare, right? What a proper journal looks like. Aims to publish research of the highest quality. Welcome submissions on blah, blah, blah. No methodological bias other than demonstrable excellence. Subscribes to the principles of data access and research transparency. Imagine that. Their signatures to some sort of thing saying they'll make their data. For papers employing data, authors must agree to deposit the data and files required to replicate the results before submitting a manuscript for review. If there are limitations or restrictions on data access, or if an exception will be requested for any reason, authors should contact us to explain the situation. Peer review. To ensure the continuing high quality of articles, all submissions are subject to peer and editorial review. You can also choose to publish it on gold access to make it open, and then information on how to submit your articles anonymously. A version for the editor and a version. Peter Boghossian is a hack. He is a hack. And so, yeah, I just kind of wanted to spend a little bit more time. Sorry, I'm umming a lot today. I want to spend a little time just pointing that out. He could not make an argument directly to the fields he was criticizing, so he decided to go behind people's back and deceive them. And I guess maybe what I should say, like, why is ethical research important? Why is ethical approval and research important? Should we all look for this, right? Because I get he's in the humanities, and the humanities don't often have to go through the process of thinking about the research implications on human subjects, right? Peter Boghossian should have known better. And Peter Boghossian works in an institution where people routinely, his colleagues would have routinely gone through the ethical review process. And so why the need for ethical clearance in research? Why should someone who claims to be a teacher of ethics already basically have an intuition that maybe these things are important? Consent, yes, exactly. There's so much wrong about what he did. They probably didn't, I don't know what happened exactly with his disciplinary hearing, but I don't know why he didn't get. Well, I guess there was a similar, I actually know this researcher, Rosie Campbell in the UK, got in trouble recently. Rosie Campbell, Deceptive Research Practices. All right, so yes, so someone who I've actually published works with about a decade ago got got permission to, okay, I'll put Burke back here because maybe it's not, got permission to do research from her department into something about MPs, right? And let's see. I can't. Anyway, she, right, here we go. So what she did was she wanted to know something about how MPs would respond to stuff. So during the COVID pandemic, she sent out fake letters as a sort of a research stimulus in order to see the responses and then to measure them. Now, you know, researchers, we send out like surveys to people all the time to ask, you know, like the MPs have been asked to do surveys and whatever else, but they know up front who it is. And she basically like used deception in order to be a cover, like a sort of like a control variable. And she got called out for it because during the pandemic, it was found out that, you know, MPs don't deal with this sort of level of stuff, but their staff were being asked to treat these hoax things as real during a pandemic when their time was needed elsewhere. And so she had to like do a public climb down and apology for that. And to be honest, part of the problem was that I don't think that her research process discussed, the deceptive part of it enough, or at least that part of the research process is maybe not as well understood. So ethics in research are there for multiple reasons, right? The first one being your moral obligation to not harm people. Not harming your subjects is the kind of akin to physicians taking the Hippocratic Oath, do no harm. That is the first principle. And you can harm people, if you have to deceive people in order to get an authentic response. This is often used in psychology. People will be recruited to an experiment that is not exactly the experiment that they want to do. So you might be asked, for instance, in the very famous, there's a whole bunch of a Milgram and the prison experiment or whatever else. The one on electricity, you're being told that, you're coming in and you're seeing the effects of negative reinforcement on learning. And you're using electrical shock as the substitute for negative for negative reinforcement, in that now you could never get it off the ground study about using electricity to torture people, right? The actual experiment was, of course, how far will people go when an authority tells them that they have to do something that they know is immoral. But if you told them that, they would obviously alter their behaviors. So in some cases, there is a question that needs to be answered. Is deception necessary in order to get at the truth of the matter? And is the deception that you're going to do minor and not going to do harm to the person? You're not actually you're compensating them for their time, for instance. You're bringing them in as paid volunteers, or they get credit if they're undergraduate students for like something else in their class, right? They're getting a little bit of compensation for their time. The deception is necessary in order to get a pure result for the research, and those kinds of small deceptions are often approved. They wrote 20 crap articles and wasted the time of journal editors and peer reviewers and just, rounds and rounds of time. And for what? It was... So why is ethical clearance in research necessary? And this is from, food for thought. The main reason why most pieces of research require ethical clearance is to, 1, ensure the research is conducted in a responsible and ethically accountable way. 2, minimize the risk of harm to humans and animals. And 3, ultimately ensure the research leads to beneficial outcomes. Research clearance typically involves an ethical clearance committee looking at the research aims and methodologies of researchers to make sure that the research will be conducted in a way that protects the dignity, rights, and safety of the research participants, and that the research design is ethically sound and likely to render the anticipated results. Ethical approval of a research project also helps to increase the legitimacy of research findings. This is important for those making decisions based on the research results. Oh, this is from Singapore. So this is like a general, pretty across the board understanding in the social sciences and in the natural sciences as well. The idea of ethical approval of research. Why should ethical approval be required prior to publication? This is not like new ideas. These aren't hidden. And yet he just thought, oh, I'm just going to do this, under the cover of my faculty's position, so I can use like my university research, my university address as the corresponding author address, but not actually go through the process of getting approval from the university, which probably would have opened them up to some kind of legal vulnerabilities in some situations. And that doesn't get enough attention. That he is, and I think I actually put this up in my thing because people don't need to talk about this. Boghossian was found by his institutional review board to have committed research misconduct. Specifically, he failed to secure his approval before proceeding with research on human subjects. We should be talking about that, not his victimization. We should say, how did you get to be an assistant professor and not understand the research approval process? How did you get to be an assistant professor by listing online digital magazines that aren't peer-reviewed in your citation index? Sad. Sad. We had to do this in our doctoral program. Dude should know this. Exactly. Absolutely exactly. And yet he's held to, the standards of white mediocrity. It's really frustrating. So that's kind of what I wanted to go into a little bit more. I wanted to dunk on Peter Boghossian because he leaves academia having made, from what I can see, no massive contributions. And if anything, he's mostly destroyed his own reputation with his inability to put out high quality, well-written pieces. Now I'm just talking about things that are peer-reviewed. I'm like, this letter where you have sources and yet you don't actually provide a bibliography. Like, I just think if you're gonna put references in a document, explain who the author was, what the title was, where it is, where it was published, and the last date you accessed it, especially for online stuff, because the internet does not pages don't last forever. Like the internet might remember, but that doesn't mean that it's going to live in the same house all the time. And this was not written with the intention of even attempting an academic standard of writing. He was absolutely trying to, he wrote this for Fox News. He wrote this for the Daily Mirror. He wrote this for quotes to highlight his victimization and downplay his own professional deficiencies. Hey, all right. Hey, Matilda. Hey, Faye Queen Corey. Good to see ya. Eggberry. And I think that's everyone. Oh, Haruka in the chat. All right. Haruka, did I see you comment on I gotta kind of call you out, not call you out, but I think you saw, you comment on Kevin's, I kind of went, comment during the Arcadum thing when he was talking about Spectrum stuff and Arcadum's interactions. I hope you went on in that video where Kevin kind of clarified it when he said he didn't want to conflate those two things. However, when interacting with people on the spectrum, he's seen that kind of behavior and it reminded him of that. So I think that was your comment on the video from this channel that I posted. And I didn't write it in the comments, but it did stay with me because knowing Kevin, I know when that came out of his mouth, and again, later people clarified it, he wasn't meaning it the way that the words were being said, in that he had another meaning in his mind. So, all right, well, you guys, I'm having so much fun. I've actually went 15 minutes longer, but then I'm like, you guys are vacation. You guys are vacation. No, what I'm going to do is I have been trying to post more regularly. So as I said, one thing is the Twitch stream where we're having Kristiosity's D&D thing. During the week, I post that to my D&G channel, so I pull that down and kind of edit it up a little bit and create a copy of that if you are interested in listening to us play D&D. Otherwise, I'm going to be making an effort to at least take, a 10-15 minute clip from every happy hour that Kevin and I do. The Arcadum one was way longer because it needed to be. But I'm hoping to get more short clips so that some of those conversations can be preserved, because it is content, and currently it's not being hosted anywhere on YouTube. So Kristi Witter's channel is now also AKA'd as the home of the happy hour, and I hope that you will enjoy those as you check them out. Yeah, vacay. Currently I've got the one up. I've got the entire episode of us talking to Dusty Smith, because that was just fun, and got the Arcadum one, and then I'm working on editing the one from just this last Friday, which I hope will be up, sometime by Tuesday, Wednesday time. Yeah, and so that's it. I guess I'm gonna get on with my vacay. I'm gonna play some D&D tonight. I've got another week of not having to set the alarm clock, which is wonderful, and I'm very much chilling out. So, but it's always good to spend time with y'all. Always good to have y'all show up and have a little chat on a Sunday morning. That is going to be it from me. I'm going to go warm up my coffee because there's just like a little bit left, and I haven't had enough caffeine today. Go prep for the approaching conflict of my session, and I will see you guys next Sunday. So then all that's left to be said is that I have been Kristi. Y'all have been awesome. Thank you for stopping by. I appreciate your time and your attention. I wish you a good day, good evening, good afternoon, wherever it is, whenever it is you are. And until next time, all that's left to be said is that I have been Kristi. You have been awesome. Be safe, be well, and I'll see you again next Sunday. See you at 1 or whatever it is next Sunday. All right. Bye, y'all. End.